Okay, so we're working on rationalizing, and let's start off with just talking about when we have things like the square root of 20. Okay? When we have the square root of 20, what do we need to do? When you are trying to rationalize, you're trying to simplify this down to where you do not have any perfect squares left inside of underneath the radical sign. See, like with 20, I know that 20 splits up into 4 times 5. Well, 4 is a perfect square. The square root of 4 is 2. And square root of 5, I can't do anything with it, so it's 2 square root of 5. This would be my answer. Now, some of y'all need to remind yourselves that perfect squares, like 1 squared is 1, perfect squares are 1, 9, oh, I skipped one, it's 4. 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, what is that, 7, 8 is 64, 9 is 81, 10 is 100. Sometimes some of the geometry teachers will tell you to write the perfect squares out to the side to help you remember what you're looking for. See, if I had something like the square root of 56, if I went looking to rationalize this, I would look and see, okay, 56. 49 is smaller than that. But there's nothing times 49 that gives me 56. And if you don't know, just take 56 divided by 49. It does not give you an even number. 56 divided by 36 does not give you an even number. 25 doesn't go into 56. 16 doesn't, but 9 does. It splits up as 9. Well, no, it doesn't, does it? I meant to put 54, but I didn't. 9 doesn't either. And 4, does 4 go in there? 4 does. Oops, I have the eraser on. Try again. Let me start with 56. Goodness gracious. So 4 does. Take 56 divided by 4. What do you get? 14. Now I know that 4 is a perfect square. So now here I would get the square root of 4 is 2, and then the square root of 14. That would be your answer. Now, what if we had things like, let me go back a second. Let's see. I want a new paper here. If I had a number outside, so if I had 2 square root of, let me see. Let me pick a number here. 18. If you have a number outside the square root sign, we'll deal with that later. First, you start with 18. I'm going to split it up, and I know that there's a perfect square in there. I know that I have 2 times 9. Well, the square root of 9 is 3. So now this becomes 2 times that 3, and then this 2 just stays underneath the square root sign. So it becomes 6, because 2 times 3 is 6, square root is 6. If I had a negative outside, like say it was negative square root of 75, that's just like a negative 1 out there. So you'd leave that alone, and we'd go and try and break up 75. 75 is 3 times 25. Well, 25 is a perfect square, so the square root of 25 is 5. So this would be negative 1 times 5, because that's outside the square root sign. Underneath is still your 3. So you have negative 5 square root of 3. All right, now on this PowerPoint, let's start right here. Let's look at where it says the square root of 40 b squared. Now, if you notice, this time we have letters underneath there. But it still means the same thing, like it takes 2 to come out of the house. Right here, I'm going to split it up. I'm going to think about the square root of 40 and I'm going to think about the square root of b squared. Remember, if I look at b squared, the square root of b squared means b times b. It takes 2 to come out the house. So it's just a b. So you can also think of it like the square root takes away the squared. So the b will be outside the house. Now I just need to figure out the 40. If I split up the 40, it splits up as 4 and 10. Well, 4 is a perfect square. The square root of 4 is 2. So it'll be 2b square root of 10. That will be how far it's simplified. Let's look at another one. If I have the square root of, let's do 32 x squared y to the third. Okay, we're going to look at the first one and do the square root of 32, and then I'm going to do the square root of x squared y to the third. Now, if I look at the letters, remember that I'm going to have x squared, which is x times x, y to the third, 1, 2, 3. That's 3 y's. It takes 2 to come out the house. So outside of the house, I have an x, and then one of these sets of y's comes out, so I'll bring the y out there. But what's left? We still have a what left? We still have a y, so the y is going to go in there. But yes, now we have to do the 32. So you're going to split up the 32. That's going to be, let's see, I know that is 6 and 2. Not 6, sorry, 16. 16 and 2. 16 is a perfect square. The square root of 16 is 4. So I'll put the 4 outside, and the 2 gets left inside. So it becomes 4xy square root of 2y. We'll practice on some of those in a minute. Back to what's on the PowerPoint. I also have things like this. It says the square root of 5. It says the square root of 5 divided by 16. I need to apply them to each one. So I'm going to take the square root of 5 over, and then I have the square root of 16. The square root of 5 cannot reduce any lower. But what is the square root of 16? It is 4. So my answer becomes 5, the square root of 5 over 4. If you could divide these numbers or simplify this fraction before you begin, you would want to do that. But 5 over 16, that's as low as it goes. So you apply the square root to the top and to the bottom. So another example like that would be the square root of 7 over 25. The first thing I would look at is, can I reduce 7 over 25 anymore? No, I cannot. So I'm going to go square root of 7 over the square root of 25. Square root of 7 is as low as it goes. But what is the square root of 25? 5. That's my answer. So let's try this one on the PowerPoint. Let's look at this one. It says the square root of 180 divided by 9. The first thing you want to do is see, can I take 180 divided by 9? Yes, you can. What is 180 divided by 9? You should get the square root of 20. 180 divided by 9 is 20. Well, now this makes it simple. I can split up 20. It's 4 times 5. The square root of 4 is 2. So my answer becomes 2 square root of 5. The next one over here says 3 square root of 20. Didn't we just find out what the square root of 20 is? Here's 2 square root of 5. That's what square root of 20 means. So I will have 3 times, now it's 2 square root of 5. So when there's a number already outside the square root, multiply those two numbers. 3 times 2 is 6. I get 6 square root of 5. That's my answer. It's in lowest terms. Try these next 3 right now. Okay, so now on this one, where it says 60 and x to the 4th, I'm going to do the square root of 60 and the square root of x to the 4th. So, oops, I meant 4th up there. If I start here with my letters, x to the 4th, if you think about it and you've already caught on, you can sit there and say, okay, if I just divide this by 2, it tells me how many pull out. So I have 2 groups I can pull out. So this is going to be x squared. The x has already come out. So now the 60, that's going to split up. Some people did 6 and 10. I'll do it this way instead of looking for the perfect square. The 6 is 2 times 3. I underline mine to make sure I don't lose them. 10 is 2 and 5. Well, so now I have a set of 2's. That means a 2 comes out. Then I have the square root. 3 times 5 is 15. So you should have gotten 2x squared, the square root of 15. The next one, it says the square root of 27 divided by 64. Now, you could have tried to reduce it. I don't know if it would have worked. I don't think it would have. When I go through here, I know I've got the square root of 27 over the square root of 64. Okay, square root of 64 works out perfectly. So I have square root of 27 over 8. Now, the square root of 64 is 8. 8 times 8 is 64. Now, 27, if I did the square root of 27, it would be 9 times 3. The square root of 9 is a perfect square, so it becomes 3 square root of 3 over 8. Then I look at the numbers outside. 3 divided by 8. Math, enter, enter. If you went to try and reduce it, that's as low as it goes. So that would be my answer. 3 square root of 3 divided by 8. Oops, they went way up. Hit one too many times. All right, so now down here it has a square root of x to the 7th, y squared, z to the 16th. If I look at my x's, how many sets, how many pairs can come out? See, if I've got 7 of them, 3 pairs can come out. So I have, whoops, circle that. I have x to the 3rd. One of those x's stays inside the house. Now on the y squared, that's one set of y's, so the y's come out. Then z to the 16th. Well, if I took that, I could divide it by 2, and that gives me z to the 8th. So your answer outside the square root is x to the 3rd, y, z to the 8th, and then the square root of x. Let's look at this problem. I want to do the square root of 24 x to the 4th, y squared. To do this one, I'm going to look at it as the square root of 24 and the square root of x to the 4th, y squared. All right, so As you're looking at this, if we do the square root of 24, square root of 24 splits up. Let's see, I know a perfect square. I could do 4 times 6. Oops, how about I write a 6? So now the square root of 4 is 2. So I have 2 on the outside, and inside I have the square root of 6. Now, x to the 4th, I have 2 sets that'll come out. Take the 4 divided by 2, so I've got x squared. The y's, divide that by 2, and that's a y. It works out evenly. So your answer becomes 2x squared y, the square root of 6. And the way I'm getting that is because when I have my x to the 4th, again, if you don't see the dividing by 2, x to the 4th means I have 4 x's and I have 2 y's. Well, how many sets of pairs do I have? 2 x's pull out. 2 x's pull out. So I have, that's where my x squared comes from. My set of y's come out, and that's a 1y. That's where that comes from. Those of you with the puzzle in front of you, if you will look at problem number, or it has there on the far right, down at the bottom, it has D. So we're going to have 8 square root 300 a to the 4th b to the 6th. When you look at this one, the 8 is outside the square root sign. So looking inside is what we're going to deal with. I'm going to look at doing the square root of 300 and then the square root of a to the 4th, b to the 6th. Now, the original 8 stays outside the square root sign. If I look at 300, that splits up as 3 times 100. I did it that way because the square root of 100 is 10. 100 is a perfect square. So the 10 will come out, so I'll have 8 times 10. Underneath the house, this 3 still stays there. And then you're going to look at your A's and your B's. As I look at this, I have a to the 4th, 1, 2, 3, 4, and b to the 6th, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. I have one set of A's and another set of A's. So I've got 2 A's that get pulled out. Well, think about it. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So I get a squared. 6 divided by 2 is 3. That's why it's b to the 3rd, because I've got 1, 2, 3 sets of b's. So it becomes 80 a squared b to the 3rd square root of 3. You're looking for pairs to pull out.